We've got the New Zealand team for Friday night. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be the best game, the most amazing game. One team's going to win bigly. Here's the New Zealand team for the game against Ireland on Friday night at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin. I haven't had a lot of sleep last night. You might be, I think it's just catching up with me now. Right, here's my thoughts on New Zealand's selection. I have got a combined 23-man squad as well that I'm going to pick. If you had access to all 23 Irish players, all 23 New Zealanders, what combined team would you put together? I will recap as well the Ireland team, although I have got a video which goes into more depth on that, which you should go and check out. And you should check out all the videos on the channel. They're all amazing, obviously. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I would love it if I would earn your subscription. And leave your comment down below. What do you think of this? Scott Robertson has just made 2 changes, both of them enforced by injury. Injuries to Cody and to Bodie, meaning Asafo Armua gets a start at hooker for the All Blacks. He was brilliant. Played nearly all of the game last week, and he was outstanding, especially in those late stages. So that guy's got an engine. George Bell comes onto the bench, and the other injury with Beauden Barrett means that Damien McKenzie elevated from the bench to the starting lineup again, and Stephen Perifetta is in. Other than that, it is as you were. And why not? They got the win. They got the W against England. I was expecting to see Ethan de Groot back. We understood that he is available again following his, whatever he got up to, whatever it was he got up to last week, I don't know. But clearly he's still on the naughty step, and he will be gutted at his, whatever it was he did. I honestly have no idea. But whatever he did, he'll be regretting it even more now, because he watched his team get a win, which is great for them and him, but he's going to have to sit in the stands and watch once again Tamati Williams continues. He had a bit of a tough job against Will Stewart. How would he get on against Finlay Bealham? He might have been thinking he was playing against Tyg Furlong, but that's one of the changes for Ireland. One question, who's going to lead the haka with no Cody Taylor? Rico Ioane? That'd be kind of good, wouldn't it? That'd be a little bit tasty, wouldn't it? With all the Sexton Ioane stuff just bubbling away in the background from the last time that they played each other, that would be kind of a nice touch. Trust me, I used to work on the TV coverage of rugby, and it will be mentioned in a meeting during the haka if Rico Ioane's the main man in the middle of the haka, then the cameramen will be on a mission to find Johnny Sexton in the crowd. No doubt whatsoever. Bring it on. There must have been a temptation, you'd think, for Razor to start Patrick Tuapolotu and Kim Roigard, but they are both on the bench. Still, both had really good games, arguably better than the men that they replaced. No, not even arguably. They were better than the men that they replaced, but Cortez Ratimer continues at scrum half and Tupu Vai continues at second row. I think this shows a little bit of maturity, I think, almost from Scott Robertson, or maybe you think I'm giving him too much credit. But this feels... I think basically the point I'm trying to make here is the role of the bench is massive in international rugby. And I think the world champion Springboks have demonstrated that more than anything. Quagga Smith has been incredible as a bench impact player. And it's got to the point where no one questions why he plays so well off the bench but doesn't start. People just go, no, he's there to do a specific role. It was the same with the whole bomb squad. And Oxenchae through the World Cup, exactly that. Many people would argue he deserves to start. But actually, who you have on the field at the end of a game can be as important, maybe more important, than who's on at the start of a game. Consequently, it shouldn't be thought of that the person in the starting 15 is first choice and the person on the bench is second choice necessarily. And I think that is the case with Petrok Tuapolotu, because I think Petty T is, well, yeah, he would deserve a start, but he did such a good job in that specific role off the bench that I think he might be tailor-made for it. Saying to him, go up and just empty the tank for 30 minutes, smash everything that moves, and he's on the field, a big unit, up against guys that are tired and starting to slow down, and his impact was massive. And also think about Cam Roigard, a really good rugby brain on the park to help close out that win for New Zealand. He really made a difference, helped them get back into the game and get the win. And from a defensive point of view, he was the one that managed to engineer himself into a position that he was the one closest to George Ford and forced him to shank the kick slightly wide. So maybe we should just actually not take it as a Cortez Ratimer has been picked above Cam Roigard, but they have very specific jobs to do, particularly in the case of scrum half, I suppose. They might end up playing 40 minutes and 40 minutes. What else do we say about this? Yeah, other than that, it just kind of team picks itself. They got the win. Williams, Armua and Lomax, strong front row. Barrett and Tupuvai. The back row looks experienced, looks good. Now that's going to be a proper battle, isn't it? Satiti, Kane, Savia, Ratimer and DMAC. DMAC, I do think, is one of those players. I was looking forward to seeing him starting for New Zealand and thought he deserved a run of games. But exactly to my point about specific roles from the bench, DMAC looks like a player who does that job really better than anyone in the All Black team. Perifetta can do it, but here you go. DMAC's got another chance to start. Let's see how that affects the way that they play. Barrett and Ioane, Talea and Clark on the wings, and Will Jordan at fullback. There's matchups everywhere on this, isn't there? Think about Will Jordan up against Hugo Keenan. That is box office. You think Mark Talea against James Lowe. The two centres, Aki and Ringrose against Barrett, Ioane. Crowley, who's got his first chance to play against New Zealand. He wasn't used in that World Cup quarter-final against DMAC, who's had plenty of games but has lost the starting job himself. So both with something to prove. Jameson Gibson Park up against Ratimer and Roigard. And Doris Savia is box office. Satiti against Tyg Byrne. Can the old dog show this new young pup a few tricks? McCarthy against Barrett. It's going to be brilliant. In fact, let me just quickly look at that Ireland team, recap what that side was. And for Ireland, no Tyg Furlong was the big headline. Other than that, it's pretty much as expected. Dan Sheehan also not available. Quite a few players in that Ireland team lacking match practice. You look at Mac Hansen, hasn't played in a month. You look at Joe McCarthy. He's only played a couple of times for Leinster. Ronan Keller has only played 11 minutes for Leinster this season. Rob Herring on the bench hasn't played any rugby this season. And he's straight in an international match. That said, they're such an experienced, cohesive unit. Andy Farrell will want to make sure this November series means that he goes out on a high before he temporarily hands over the reins of the Irish team to Simon Easterby and goes and takes over with the British and Irish Lions until this time next year. So massive, massive game. This is going to be so good. And there's just so much edge on this one. I've come up with a combined team. Okay, so this is, if you had access to all 23 players from both teams, who would you pick? And the way I do this is I pit shirt number 1 against shirt number 1, shirt number 2 against shirt number 2 and 3. You know what I mean? Go all the way down to 23. And I came up with that. A very Irish heavy team. Andrew Porter over Tamati Williams. I think that's fair. I've actually gone for Asafo Armua over Ronan Kelleher because Kelleher's hardly played any rugby and Armua is coming off the back of a really good, 70-odd minute performance. Tyrell Lomax at tight head. No Tyg Furlong for Ireland. Makes that easier, but I probably would have gone with Lomax anyway. Joe McCarthy hasn't played a lot of rugby, but I've edged him ahead of Tupuvai and Scott Barrett ahead of James Ryan. I know Scott Barrett's sort of playing the number 4 role for New Zealand, but he can play the number 5 role, so I've got those two together. The back row, I have to pick shirt for shirt, and I've gone for Caelan Doris ahead of Ardie Savia. I've gone for Josh van der Fleer ahead of Sam Cane. And the hardest one of all out of the three, I've gone for Tyg Byrne over Wallace Satiti. Tyg Byrne, one of my favourite rugby players, and the guy is just an absolute warrior. So I kind of had to pick it. I'll come to what I would do if I could move players into different shirts in a second. A halfback each, and then Mark Talea, the only player that gets in above, for me at least, above his New Zealand counterpart, which does not mean, that's not a criticism of any player. Geordie Barrett, for example, I love him. What a player. But if I had to just pick one, I'd pick Bundy Aki. Rieko Ioane, I've picked Gary Ringrose. James Lowe and Caleb Clark, really tough competition. And Hugo Keane and Will Jordan is like, I want to pick them both. And on the bench, though, you will see, I do think New Zealand have got a little bit of something coming off the bench that maybe Ireland don't. A bit of heat that could end up winning the game for them. as it did against England last weekend, but it's going to be close. And actually, this selection would appear to say that Ireland have got a big advantage, but that just isn't the case. Most of these calls were 50-50 toss-ups. And actually, just to highlight that, if I could move players into different shirts, rather than having to pick, say, Caelan Doris against Ardie Savia and only pick one of them, then my team would probably look a little bit more like that. I would have Tyg Byrne in the second row, because he has to play. I'd have Wallace Satiti, Ardie Savia as my flanks, and Caelan Doris as number 8. How box office is that back row, by the way? And as for the back line, if I could just move players around, I'd probably go Rico Ioane instead of James Lowe. James Lowe is brilliant, but Ioane is just a physical freak. And Will Jordan, I would probably go on the wing. Yeah, maybe even over Mark Talea. Which I think what the point that emphasises is that New Zealand, whilst in my original selection, looks like I've picked 5 Irishmen, New Zealand have got a serious bunch of athletes in their pack. And the same goes with New Zealand's backline. Whilst I've gone for 5 Irishmen there, man alive, they've got incredible game-breaking, game-busting talents. And that means that this is going to be an absolute ding-dong of a match. I still think Ireland edge it. I think the home advantage, the cohesion they've got, they are traditionally very good at this time of year. So despite the fact New Zealand have been playing together throughout the last few months in the Rugby Championship and have that game last week against England, I suppose for New Zealand, how tough is a 6-day turnaround for them? But Ireland are generally good at this time of year. But I could absolutely see New Zealand winning. But I'm going to go for Ireland. As I said earlier, I'm going to go for Ireland by 6. It's going to be good. Cannot wait. Thank you very much. Help me out, will you? Just help me share the channel, because it's just me. And I want to reach new rugby fans all the time. So you can help by giving a thumbs up on the video, leaving a comment down below. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe.